He was hungry. He was alone. His mother's mind was slipping away, and no one was coming to save him. But instead of breaking, he put on a pair of shoes too big for his feet, a hat too small for his head, and he turned his pain into the most unforgettable art the world has ever seen. This is the story of Charlie Chaplin, the boy the world forgot, who became the man the world could never forget. Because sometimes the deepest wounds don't destroy us. They become the very thing that makes us unforgettable. Keep watching his story might just save you. Picture a narrow street in London, wet with rain, lit only by the dim glow of a gas lamp. A small boy stands outside a theater, his nose pressed lightly against the cold glass, watching people laugh inside people with warm coats, full stomachs, and somewhere to go home to. He has none of these things. His stomach is empty, aching with a hunger he has learned not to complain about, because complaining never feels to play. His coat, thin and torn at the seams, does little against the biting winter wind. He pulls it tighter, not because it helps, but because it's the only comfort he has. This boy has no father to hold his hand, no father to teach him how to walk through a world that seems built to break. His mother, once his whole universe, now drifts further away each day, her mind fading into a fog she cannot escape, leaving him more alone than any child should ever be. He visits her when he can, sitting beside her, searching her eyes for the woman who used to sing to him. Some days she remembers his name, other days she looks at him like a stranger. And in those moments the boy learns a kind of loneliness that has no cure. With no one to guide him, the streets of London become his only school. He learns from the beggars how to ask without shame. He learns from the thieves how to survive without being caught. He learns from the workers how to bend his back and keep moving, even when his legs feel like they might give out. Hunger becomes his most loyal companion, always present, always whispering, never truly leaving his side. It walks with him to the workhouse. It walks with him to the factory. It even walks with him into his dreams at night, where food is never quite enough and warmth is only found in memory. He sleeps wherever the night allows, sometimes in crowded shelters, filled with the coughing and murmuring of other lost souls. Sometimes in the corners of factories where the machines have gone quiet, their iron bodies still warm from the day's labor. He works long hours for small coins, his small hands doing a man's work far too early in life. He scrubs, he lifts, he carries, he obeys, because a boy without a father, without a stable mother, without money, does not have the luxury of rest. And yet, in the middle of all this darkness, something strange happens. At night, when the world quiets and his body finally allows itself to rest, he dreams not out loud, never out loud, but deep inside, where no one can steal it from him. He dreams of stages, of lights, of laughter that isn't cruel but kind. He dreams of a version of himself that people don't ignore, don't overlook, don't forget. But for now, those dreams remain silent, folded away like a secret he's not ready to share with a world that has given him so little reason to hope. Nobody claps for him yet. Nobody in that theater crowd, laughing behind lit windows, has any idea that the ragged boy outside will one day make the whole world laugh and cry with a simple walk, an oversized pair of shoes, and a heart too big for his circumstances. Nobody knows his name. Not yet. To them, he is just another poor child on the street, invisible among London's forgotten. But look closely, look past the torn coat, the empty stomach, the tired eyes, and you'll see it. A small, stubborn spark, buried deep beneath years of hardship. It flickers quietly beneath hunger, beneath loneliness, beneath grief for a mother slowly disappearing. It refuses to die, even when everything around him insists that it should. That spark doesn't shout. It doesn't announce itself. It simply waits patient, quiet, alive for the day the world will finally give this boy a stage. Then one day, everything changed, not with a grand announcement, not with applause, but with a simple costume, pieced together almost by accident. He found a pair of shoes far too big for his feet, the kind that flopped with every step. He found a tiny hat, comically small, perched on his head like an afterthought. He found a bamboo cane, a coat too tight on the shoulders, and pants too loose at the waist. Alone, none of these things meant anything. But together, standing in front of a cracked mirror, they became something else entirely. They became a character. They became a mask he could hide behind. And yet, strangely, a mask that revealed more truth about him than his real face ever could. He didn't hide his pain when he wore that costume. He didn't pretend the hunger, the loneliness, the years of struggle had never happened. Instead, he took all of that, the ache of watching his mother fade, the exhaustion of factory floors, the shame of empty pockets, and he poured it into every gesture, every wobble, every tip of that tiny hat. He wore his sorrow openly, but he shaped it into something the world could laugh at instead of look away from. He turned his wounds inside out and painted them with humor, because he understood something most people never do. Pain shared honestly can heal, but pain hidden only festers. To the audience watching him for the first time, he was simply a clumsy tramp, a funny little man who tripped over his own feet, who got chased by policemen, who fumbled his way through elegant parties he clearly didn't belong. They laughed at his missteps, at the way his cane spun in his hand, at the way his oversized shoes flapped against the pavement. But he saw something different in the mirror. He didn't see a fool. He saw a man who had been knocked down more times than he could count, by poverty, by loss, by a world that never once made things easy, and yet, somehow, still got back up, still kept walking, still moved forward, one clumsy, determined step at a time. Every fall he took on screen became a joke, but every fall in his real life had once been a wound. He transformed the sting of failure into comic timing. He transformed the shame of being poor into the charm of a man who didn't own much, but carried himself with dignity anyway. He transformed heartbreak, real heartbreak, the kind that keeps you awake at night, into scenes so tender that audiences found themselves laughing one moment and wiping away tears the next. He didn't erase the sadness. He simply learned how to hold it differently, how to let it live alongside the laughter instead of being crushed beneath it. And in doing this, again and again, film after film, he stumbled upon a truth that would define not just his career, but his entire understanding of what it means to be human. Laughter isn't the absence of sadness. It never was. Real laughter, the kind that stays with people, the kind that heals something quietly broken inside them, is born directly from sorrow. It is not a wall built to keep pain out. It is a bridge built to carry pain through and out the other side. Laughter, he realized, is not about pretending things don't hurt. It's about finding the courage to rise anyway, to dust off the invisible dirt, straighten that tiny hat, and keep walking down the road, even when the road has given you every reason to stop. That single realization changed everything. The tramp on screen was no longer just a character. He became a mirror for millions of people who had also fallen, also struggled, also felt forgotten by the world. And the man underneath the costume, the boy who once stood hungry outside a theater window, slowly became someone the whole world would recognize, remember, and love. An ordinary man, shaped by extraordinary hardship, had found his way to become unforgettable, not despite his pain, but because of how honestly he wore it. Look at your own life for a moment. Look at the parts you try to hide, the failures you don't mention, the nights you cried without anyone knowing, the years that didn't go the way you planned. You may believe that these things disqualify you somehow, that a beautiful life must first be a perfect one, free of cracks, free of scars. But that boy outside the theater, hungry and forgotten, never had a perfect life either. And yet, from the very center of his imperfection, he created something the entire world would come to cherish. You don't need a perfect life to create something beautiful. You only need the willingness to keep creating, even when life refuses to be kind. Think about the wounds you carry, the ones that still ache quietly when no one is watching. Perhaps you believe they make you weak, or that they are simply proof of how much life has taken from you. But look again, those wounds are not evidence of your failure. They are the raw material of your story. They are the reason your laughter, when it finally comes, means something. They are the reason your kindness, hard-earned through your own suffering, touches other people so deeply. Sometimes the very things you wish had never happened to you are the things that will make your story matter most to someone else who is struggling in silence, just like you once did. Because here is a truth history has proven again and again. The world doesn't remember the people who had it easy. It doesn't build statues for comfort or write songs about convenience. It remembers the ones who fell and rose. It remembers the ones who lost everything and still found a reason to create, to love, to try again. It remembers the tramp who had every reason to give up, yet chose every single day to keep walking down that long, uncertain. Ease is quickly forgot. Struggle, when faced with courage, becomes legend. So today, wear your struggle the way he wore that oversized coat and tiny hat, not as something shameful to hide in the dark, but as a costume that tells the world exactly who you are and what you've survived. Step forward, even if your shoes feel too big for the journey ahead, even if your hands shake, even if you're not entirely sure where the road leads. Step into your own spotlight, imperfect and unfinished, because the world doesn't need you to be flawless. It needs you to be real. It needs you to show up exactly as you are, wounds and all. Somewhere inside you right now there is a tramp waiting, a quiet, patient part of your spirit that already knows how to take pain and turn it into art, how to take heartbreak and turn it into meaning, how to take your worst days and transform them into something that might one day help someone else survive their own. That part of you has been waiting, perhaps for years, for you to finally give it permission to ride. So keep walking, even when the road is unclear, even when the applause hasn't come yet, and no one outside your window knows your name, even when it feels like the world has given you every reason to stop. Keep walking anyway, because that is exactly how every unforgettable story begins. Your masterpiece isn't finished yet. In fact, it's only just begun. And somewhere ahead, waiting patiently down that long road, is the moment the whole world finally sees what you've been quietly creating all along.